Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to an episode of the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills. Today I'm joined by Sam Williams. Sam, welcome.
Great to be back in the cave. Are you coming at us live from a beanbag from the 150th Open? That looks like something you might have nicked from the Greenkeepers compound.
I'm sat on a beanbag.
Pretty sure.
Blue. I'm covering any logo that would describe where
I'm pretty sure
it
says the 151st Open Championship on it. It's very nice, that.
No, it couldn't possibly. It's a big beanbag, but it's a really big beanbag. It's reminiscent of the ones that were at the 151st Open in front of the jumbo screens, but it's not the same, I can assure you. I just was so fond of it. I got a mock-up made of it.
Kleptomania. Are there any
Wouldn't
famous
know.
golfers who are kleptomaniacs?
No, there's some famous actresses.
Yeah. What's her name?
Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder. She was an
was-
absolute kleptomaniac, wasn't she?
I think so.
Is that
That
weird?
could be
You're
be done.
addicted to stealing things.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. We digress. So this is going to be a Course Diaries episode about Portstewart, but probably a more rounded recantation of our few days in Northern Ireland, which was exceptional.
Northern Ireland was a cool place. We got to take little Charlie across, not your son, our
So
employee,
patronising.
out to Northern Ireland. The three of us went across to see some friends and do a bit of work over with Portrush.
Charlie's
And,
been good, hasn't he? Charlie's been with us a few months now on sort of like a summer internship, and now sort of firmly
graduated.
part of the stable. He's responsible for the editorial content that's significantly increased in volume and helping us out a bit, which is much needed. So yeah, going away with him was good fun. Always good fun. He's good time. He's been a lot of events with us and stuff this year. So
Scratch golfer.
didn't show it. Didn't show it. I don't know whether that features is in his performance appraisal later this.
Portrush showed its
this
teeth
month.
though, didn't it?
Yeah. So I guess do we just put a quick? It'd be useful just to sort of probably flag the sponsors early doors and just a bit of a thank you there at the beginning. This unofficial sponsor of the podcast this week has to be EasyJet.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. We used to do the official unofficial. And it only really comes back out when there's really, notable reason to
EasyJet
pull it back out.
nailed it. I mean, they were comfortably.
Yeah, they really did.
The sponsor of this
They shone.
episode.
So the story goes, for some reason, getting to Northern Ireland isn't the easiest, and perhaps just because of the way we wanted to do it, but we flew out with Aer Lingus and flew back with EasyJet.
Yeah, and there's two airports at Belfast. So you can fly into City,
Yeah.
which is smaller, a bit more domestic hub, international, as the name suggests.
And we flew out with Aer Lingus into City.
Yep.
Flew
Which is a
back.
dream. Aer Lingus were great, actually.
Yeah, they were great. And we flew back with Aer Lingus
Flew back
with
with EasyJet.
EasyJet from international, which obviously has some logistical difficulties because we had to kind of drop the car off at a different place, which was fine. These places are all geared up for it. Well done, Sixth. You were advert suggests you'd be good. You were good. Well done. Aer Lingus, very good. Well done.
Dealing with EasyJet was a bit like dealing with Dick Turpin, I felt.
No, I had to look up Dick Turpin.
But I don't mind the fact that when you fly with like a low cost airline, you kind of know you have to pay for a seat and you have to pay for wings on a plane and you have to share the cost of a pilot and all that kind of gubbins. But we got there, checked our bags, and because you couldn't add it on how we booked it, we had to pay for the golf bags. It's like, fine, yeah, like 100%. So it's like, oh, that's 50 quid a piece. Or I think it was 47, which was quite interesting for reasons we'll come back to. But it was £47 each to book the golf bags on. I was like, that's fine. I don't really mind. Do we need to check any of this other stuff in? No. Rest is hand luggage. It's all good. You go through security. You get ready to board the plane. And there was a queue with people waiting to get on the plane with air stewardess literally sat there with a PDQ machine taking £50 contactless
What's
payments.
a PDQ?
It's like a PDQ is like a terminal that you like a card terminal.
Oh.
Just literally flagging people down. Anything that looks bigger than like a slip, like sort of handbag, like something small. They were just like, yep, nope, doesn't fit, 50 quid. It was absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
That is more than what I'd paid to check a golf bag literally 20 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Charlie's coming through. I mean, we had massive rucksacks with laptops and stuff, and sort of like spun around. And
But I think because
did
they're
a
on our
curtsy
back,
around them.
because they're on our back. This is how stupid it was. Because they're on our back, she just kind of ignored them,
Yeah.
and it was like, I mean,
Charlie had a very svelte hold-all, didn't he?
yeah, it really. I think if I'd have sat on it, I think it would have squashed down to the size of a Tesco carrier bag. You know, it didn't really have anything in it. And the weirdest part was we were so under our weight on the golf clubs. It was like, I don't know what we were allotted 23 kilos, something like that. We were all like 19 kilos. So like we were so under our weight, and we were like, is everything okay with the bags and the handbags? And okay, he's like, yeah, the hand luggage fine. And we could have put Charlie stupidly only had clothing in that thing anyway. He could have lobbed that in his golf bag, and he would have been none the wiser.
But I've seen this done before, where they just say, yeah, that needs to go in the hold, and they just stick a little tag around it and you lob it in the hold. And he was like, no, I've had this done to me at Euro Wings or whatever before. They were literally just nailing £50 every 1 in 4 people. Otherwise, I thought that was some of the finest racketeering I've ever seen.
Because
Al
it's
Capone
not like
would
that's
have
your
been proud
first
of
point.
EasyJet.
That's not like that's your first point of contact. You know, they could have addressed that when we checked in. You know, oh, by the way, I think your bag is too big. Let's deal with that now. And it would have been, well, I'm assuming it would have been £47. I don't really know.
You kind of got to admire the absolute raw ability to make money.
I didn't have EasyJet down for that. Like I knew that was a Ryanair
wow.
thing, but I didn't have EasyJet down for that sort of shenanigans.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
EasyJet, Dick Turpin.
Try and go with Aer Lingus if you can. Aer Lingus were really good. Or
right.
Jet 2. I'm a massive fan of Jet 2.
So we are going to talk a little bit about Portstewart.
Okay.
We were obviously over in Portrush for a couple of days. I think fleeting mention to that. We had a nice bit of fun in the harbour bar, some late night music. Do you know, just on the harbour bar in Portrush, which is as much of a visit to Royal Portrush as it's like a rite of passage going to the harbour bar. I just don't understand how Ireland in general just gets it right with pub atmosphere. It's so repeatable.
Yeah, live music, alcohol, small space. That pretty much does it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And yet so many bars, you go into a pub in Scotland or England, like you see live music, you're like, oh right, it must be a wedding on or something here. It's such a...
And it's not just like, they had them one after the other. I think, so in the harbour, what was it, on a Sunday night?
Yeah.
So
Which
I wouldn't
was
have
a quiet
said,
night in Portrush.
Yeah, there was 3 different sort of guys back to back. While the rugby was on, we watched that fabulous Portugal Fiji game.
Yeah.
And the rugby's on, there's live music. You're going to be fit. For those of you who haven't been to the harbour bar, Sam's correct. It is as much worth a visit as the Dunluce.
It's that good, isn't it? It really is an exceptional.
It's part of the experience
bar.
of going there, and the McAlpins have done a great job of turning that into just a proper destination. And you go there and it's tiny, like that. The original harbour bar, the pubby bit.
Yeah, the front
you
bar.
can fit like 20 people in. But it's like live music and it's rammed and everyone's stood up and everyone's jostling for position and everyone's happy and you just necking Guinness for fun.
And there's a big thing in
Ireland. And they take their
with...
time over the Guinness.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's not like, oh crap, it's busy. The Guinness is done properly as well, you know?
Yeah, they will not... They want to let it sit for a bit, don't they?
Yeah.
I think there's so much... I think there's a bit of nonsense tied up in this sort of mindset. Everyone over here always says, "Oh, the Guinness always tastes better in Ireland." I think I can't.
Heathen.
It does seem
Heathen.
to, but I think that so much of that is experiential. But yeah, I can't understand how Ireland can just have such a radically better pub environment and pub scene than the rest of Britain or Wales. Yeah, well, you know what I mean. Like, you know, it's just not in the same league. But good fun. Dunluce was great as well. I couldn't believe how firm the Dunluce was when we played that.
Yeah. For October it was.
And we spent a bit of time with Graham, the course manager there, who's an absolute master of his craft.
And Belle.
Belle, star of the show, little dog. But he was talking about some machinery that he'd been using on the greens, and I hadn't seen one of those until then. And that must have been quite exciting for you as a budding agronomist.
I think I've seen one before. I think they're common, but I don't think people have their own. You know what I mean? I think they you might bring it in to do that work.
But what is it? It basically injects.
It injects water down
into the green,
into the surface of the turf, and that injection of high pressure water kind of creates space, and it creates a vacuum, and then as the water goes down, it sucks down the sand through it. So basically underfills the sand that's on the surface of the ground into the gap the water is kind of. So you're doing lots of really good things there. You're adding air into turf, which
break-up of any thatch.
Air should be like 33% of your turf.
Is that right?
It's
really?
Water turf air. Pretty much.
So you want a lot of air in that turf. You don't want it.
You want it to be there because roots need to breathe.
Is that what creates that hollow sound on links?
I don't know. That he was saying that was something to do with the sand type, is that sort of hollowy sound. But air is really important. That's why you aerate greens. That's why you punch them, because you need to get air down there. And it's adding water, which is obviously quite good. And then it sucks the sand down, and then obviously, gives it the roots space to grow, and you get healthy grass. But it's a cool machine. He asked me some questions about agronomy, and I completely froze.
I thought it was. You were a bit starstruck, actually.
Who wouldn't?
I think it was. I thought it was more noticeable at the Dunluce purely because of how wet it's been over here in the recent weeks. So the course was quite verdant. The rough, the wispy stuff. Even that was quite green. Now, everything looked, it was very healthy and green purely because of how much water's come down. So you half expect to play to those greens and see the ball come to attention quite quickly. So when I saw how much it was racing away, I was like, wow, these are really, really firm, which was remarkable. So no, it was good, and it was tough.
And
really
then
tough.
we finished what we needed to do anyway, and then we hopped across to somewhere that has been on the radar for a little while, but has kind of evaded us, and we went to go see Portstewart. So much to go on about here. Before we did that the previous night, we got with some friends of the podcast that we have been in touch for a little while, and we met them up at Walker Cup. I wasn't going to name them for GDPR.
I haven't given their surnames. GDPR has been intact.
Told us that there's a really cool restaurant that I'm going to call Avicii's, but it was
Amici's,
which was near Portstewart. They say it's the best restaurant in the Triangle.
And the Triangle is?
The Triangle is Portrush, Portstewart, Coleraine.
Mm-hmm.
They're all kind of fairly close to each other, and they call it colloquially as the Triangle, apparently, which was new to me. But very cool little restaurant they went to the night before, and had some pasta and
it was lovely.
Some sort of tapasy type stuff to start. That was really cool.
Well, that was the whole thing, if I'm honest, with Portstewart was a little bit of a revelation to me, because in my ignorance, I did not know how close Portstewart was to Portrush. So just as a jumping off point there, if you'd have said to me 12 months ago, we'll go to Portrush, but then we'll go to Portstewart, or we'll go to County Down, we'll go to maybe hop across to Donegal, I'd have kind of said, like, yeah, I don't know, I'd have expected Portstewart to be like maybe an hour, because whenever you're out on the coast at these places, it always feels like you've got to spend a bit of time to get to the next bit of coastland that's got another world-class golf course. It's only 15 minutes up the road. I was just like,
less than that.
Yeah,
probably 7 or 8 minutes
it's
up the
nuts,
road. Yeah,
isn't it? It is absolutely crazy.
And what was interesting is we went to this restaurant, and we were driving there in the dark, and Google Maps is saying, right, there's a golf course on your left, there's a golf course on your right, there's a golf course on your left. We're like, is this Portrush? And Charlie'd played there before, but it was dark, and he was like, I know, not Portstewart, sorry. Charlie'd played there before. He's like, no, this isn't, I don't think this is it, I don't think this is it. There's loads of golf there. Like, loads of golf.
So there's like a council-owned sort of 9-hole pitch and putt job.
I think it's 9-hole and a pitch and putt.
And then Portstewart have 3 golf courses.
So they've got the one that's by the restaurant. So there's the first tee of the old course, which is literally on the coast. The restaurant overlooks the sort of the sun setting, and it's kind of the old course tees off there, and I didn't know that existed. And you've got the riverside, and then you've got the strand, and it's just, there's so much there. So
yeah, and if I'm honest, Portstewart had been kind of maybe built up in my head a little bit as a bit of a hidden gem. And I think even when we went to dinner in Amici's, I bumped into a member there, and he said, and I'll come back to him because he's quite interesting in of itself, said, oh yeah, it's a bit of a hidden gem. It's anything but. I mean, it's an absolutely world-class golf course, the Strand.
I'd say it's less hidden now.
Yeah.
It's hidden to us.
I think it's, yeah, I wouldn't say it is. I mean, it is, it's a proper destination golf course. But the history of the club is quite interesting, because very, very light research, and this is where I'm almost certainly going to be wrong, and we'll get a barrage of emails from club members that will correct us. But I think golf played at Portstewart about 1894, which would really explain that old course, which is that very narrow strip of land, what it's allow alongside the sort of highway that comes down and some houses off that are a bit more inland that look out across the bay, and it's a wonderful, wonderful backdrop. And that old course, still remains. And that sort of plays on along, and you sort of start near Amici's. But then it's absolutely nowhere near the rest of the club. So there's a reason you can't see a clubhouse by the old, because that's now moved over to where the Strand course is, which is 6 or 7 minutes. You've got to get through the sort of town and the port and back up the other side up to the Strand, where they have 18 holes. And they also have the Riverside, which was originally a 9-hole course, but is now an 18-hole golf course. And you're like, wow, this is like a lot more than I'd known about. I always knew there was the Strand course. I'd always heard front nine at Portstewart. You kind of hear a little bit about that. Richie Ramsey had put the second hole from the Strand in his eclectic 18, and I think he famously said that I could put any hole from that front nine into my eclectic 18, it would be worthy of its spot. So
I think the front nine of Portstewart is like, again, shame on me, I've not played Hillside, but they say the same about the back nine at Hillside, don't they? You imagine if you put the front nine at Portstewart and the back nine at Hillside together, you suddenly have got this like super mega course where like literally everyone would be like bowing down and kind of raving about.
So
it also puts a weird spin on how you perceive it, because everyone's telling you front nine at Portstewart, and it puts you in a very weird headspace when you go there.
Yeah, I'd agree. And you've got that, this huge clubhouse, but it's a big club. Golf and Ireland's popular. There's a lot of members. It's a big hangout spot for tourists. There's obviously a lot of investment into that clubhouse and the facilities they've got. But it looks out right on that first tee of the Strand. And the second you get there, you look out and you walk into that sort of lounge area on the sort of second floor, and you go, right, I get it. I see it. You can see it as you drive in.
But that's what you did, because you went upstairs. So kind of, if you walk along the car park, you need to go up a rise to get to that first tee, because it's kind of like 8 to 10 feet above where the car park is. And you'd gone up to go get sandwiches and a drink, whereas I'd gone straight to the first tee to
waz the drone
around. So my first experience of that wasn't from the bar. It was walking up those steps and then landing on that tee box and then seeing down into the oblivion.
Absolutely incredible.
It's just like, whoa.
I would say the biggest dune structure I've ever seen.
Oh, well, the third biggest dune structure I've seen, yeah. They are enormous. Like,
well, breathtaking.
40 feet? I don't know. They're massive.
Absolutely breathtaking. You came running back to the table saying, I've just had the drone up. I mean, there's land for golf courses for days out here. Yeah. Which I think that horse
so
might
much
have
more
bolted
you can see
with our friends at Triple SI. But, the land it is sat on, particularly that front nine, is playing amongst dunes that are of truly biblical proportions. It's quite hard to imagine how they've ever been created, really, isn't it? When you look at it, you're like, just how the natural forces of the earth have created sandy deposits I think that. It is like,
I think it's in a very fortuitous position, and I am no geologist, but it's in a very fortunate position. But I have a crack, yeah, of sitting between the sea and a river. And there's nowhere else for that land to go, short of being blown straight into the river.
Do you think it's been pushed from both sides?
I think there's been kind of, I've got absolutely no basis to put this on. But the fact that all that front nine sits between the river and the sea would suggest that there has been something in that has just kind of kept the dunes there and kind of forced them upwards, because that's the only way it can go. And they are massive. And they're nothing, down that stretch, there's nothing like that. Like, the Mussenden hasn't really got much stuff like that. Castle Rock, which is literally just the other side of the river.
Yeah,
so the band course of Castle
incredible.
Rock is just the other side of the river from the Strand at Portstewart. So
I think that gives you a bit of a sense to what you let yourself in for, really. But that the course, I believe, originally started on the old course, as the name would suggest, 1894. Willie Park Jr. was involved in the 1920s, prolific architect, in doing some stuff. Not clear to me whether that's on the old or the Strand, so apologies to our listeners for not finding that out in advance. But the really interesting piece about the design of the Strand course and 9 holes of the Riverside is that what we play today is really down to a teacher who was a member at the golf club, and in 1986 laid that stuff down. So I think
remarkable stuff, really. This, when you go, like, we'd heard this story about the teacher beforehand, that this teacher had done this, and then when Sam was at Amicis, he bumped into a member, and Sam was like, yeah, it's amazing, that story about the teacher, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, he taught me.
Yeah, incredible, absolutely amazing. And you then think, God, tomorrow I'm going to play this course that's just been laid out by a teacher, and it just shows you that I think an eye for good golf is stuff that comes quite naturally and stuff. And it, I don't know, maybe it's a bit reaching, but the Irish just seem to do a wonderful job with fostering great amateur input and things, whether it's amateur golf's a big scene. I think Ali McIntosh is in the Republic of Ireland as well, and I think he's had some involvement in places like Cairn and a number of other places. And he's not a sort of full-time golf course architect. Might be wrong on that, but yeah, absolutely fascinating stuff. And I'll say 1986, I think the club acquired that land. I think that's where he kind of rooted it. There was also room for that 9 holes of the Riverside. I think years later they then bought more land, and that became another 18. So yeah, I think, again, to use your analogy about those 2 9 holes, it's always strange when you hear such consistent feedback from everybody when you say you're going to Portstewart and they say, front nine's incredible. You feel like what they're saying is the back 9, you could probably take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's what you feel like they're saying. And
I think that's, and you see comments when you post a picture or people send you messages or whatever, and it's like, yeah, front nine. And the back 9's really good. And I think that was the bit that maybe...
It's almost a victim of its own breathtakingness, because the front 9 is astoundingly breathtaking. Now, architecturally, is it leaps and bounds ahead of the back 9? It's arguable. It is. You could have a debate about that, because the holes are great. They're really, really good, but you're just in this amazing vista, just jaw-droppingly amazing vista that you don't really see on that stretch of the northern coastline there in Northern Ireland. But I was fully prepared for a rubbish back 9, and it just was not a rubbish back 9 at all.
And I think the big thing is more the juxtaposition of so basically you play in around these absolutely incredible dunes for the front 9, and just as you sort of step out of those, so you play a unbelievable dogleg par 4, the 8th, where you sort of drive down onto this little shelf and then play a kind of 150-yard shot across to this green that's sort of benched into the side of a dune. And then 9 plays back and away, back out to the clubhouse, and you kind of crest this hill, and then you look down on the sort of lower profile land of the sort of Riverside and the back 9. And you can see that you've come out of the extreme duneland. So the back 9, the actual architecture of the holes, I would argue, is almost just as solid, really. The actual holes.
I thought 10...
The reason people say this is it's the juxtaposition against the dunescape that you've come from and to. And
100%.
I think if you park that part in your brain, the consistency of the golf holes is actually there.
Yeah, so just walking through the back 9, I think the back 9 is far more of a talking point than it is the front 9, because everyone talks about the front 9, and it's great. It is really good. But the back 9, we were playing into a solid 3 club breeze, at the start of the back 9, and you've got a really testing 10th hole. The 11th hole is this lovely little sort of dogleg right with a fabulous green with a dell in front of the green. If you're short, you're going to be 30 yards short because it all drops down into this dell. Great little 150-yard drop shot par 3. Again, we're still playing into a howling wind. Then a couple of nice back-to-back 5s. The ground is really interesting. It's undulating and interesting, and the green complexes are really interesting.
I thought those 2 back-to-back par 5s are great. I mean, the greens, like you say, were a bit more intricate on the par 5s, but they were fabulous green sites.
Then you turn around on
really good
15 and play really cool little par 3, short one.
15 was every inch as good as the 14. Well, maybe 14th at Porthcawl is one of the great par 3s, I think, in golf, because it's so the scale of the bunkering and stuff. But it's very similar to that golf hole. If anybody's played Porthcawl, similar length. You've got to hit the
trouble
green.
At the front, got to hit the right number. It's got some runoffs. Then 16 plays back towards the clubhouse,
Nice
and then
enough
people
hole.
had said to us, you know,
Don't play
if you want to
17,
play the
mate.
back nine, play the back nine, but probably walking after 16. I said, no, I'm not.
And it was actually
doing this.
raining, and I volunteered that to you, actually.
Yeah, and I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm finishing it off. So you play 16, plays up to the clubhouse, nice hole, long hole, plays uphill, and then you kind of flatten off towards the clubhouse. Turn around on 17, and 17 was a brute.
17 was an outrageously good hole.
440 odd yards with like a volcano green. There's no miss. The only miss really was back, left, short, right, all disappears. Like you've lost. Like you're going to be 20 yards from the green. It needed. We were playing into a howling breeze, but it needed to like 2 solid golf shots. A great golf hole 17, I thought. And then 18 was
18 sort of meandered
just
way
a bit
back.
of a brute on the way back.
It's a bit of a warm down, isn't it? But I think it's a real roller coaster of a golf course, Portstewart.
It's just one of those ones where I feel like it's a reason I don't really do a lot of research when I go places, because I want to form my own opinions. And I had like a tarnished opinion of it going in, not tarnished, but I did feel like the back nine was going to be like, okay, yeah. But the front nine was great. But I enjoyed the back nine as much as I enjoyed the front nine, if I'm perfectly honest. Maybe it's just me.
I mean, I'm just sort of leafing through the club's history section as we talk about this, and just the scale of the changes around these places, it's just so big. It's like, 1907 original clubhouse was a small cottage. A larger clubhouse was then put in 28. In the 1960s, a doubling of the club membership led to steady improvements in the clubhouse. Work on a completely new building started in 2008, which is obviously the building we're in now. These places have done such a great job of evolving around it, and it's like Portstewart Golf Club is not a golf course in Portstewart that has a membership. Portstewart Golf Club is the golf club of the town where you just think they've just got courses and golf facilities and access for days. It was it was
a wonderful
great
place. A wonderful place. Very nice dirty fries.
Yeah.
We had
special shout out for the dirty fries.
Yeah, dirty fries were good. A bit of a hot sauce with some sort of chicken in. Yeah, very nice.
Be quite interesting to see. That's obviously working up towards the Open in 2025. Portstewart will, no doubt be, very much on the map then as part of everyone that will visit Northern Ireland on the lead up to then. So, I absolutely loved it. Sensational. What was your standout golf hole, Portstewart?
It's going to be really hard not to say one, because I stood, you stand on that. It's the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is ginormous. The one that really the one I was most surprised with was 17, because again, I've been told and I really like 17. I thought it was really hard. It was long with this wonderful green. Some
of the stuff on the front, there's some seriously good holes, aren't there? On that
and it's one of those ones.
Two is a little. I mean, I just didn't hit enough club. Charlie, again, that's just Charlie's fault. He said, it's no more than a 4-iron down here. Playing into a howling wind, we didn't get it far enough. But you just play a brilliant little layup iron down there with it's a staggering dune on your left, and you play up to a green that doesn't look that tight, but when you get up there, it's really pinched.
8 is probably where it's at.
Yeah, eight's incredible. I thought 7 was nice, where you could bite some of that corner off over the dunes.
6, that par 3 is nice.
I mean, I think
5 is reminiscent of County Down second, where you play through the dunes.
Yeah.
There's a narrow entrance to the green between dunes either side.
Yeah, I agree. I'd agree with that.
And it's
a bit more of a straightaway hole, isn't it? It feels like there's a bit of respite because, that par 5.
I mean, say respite, it's 460, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was just the wind that helped. I think, but no, amazing. Absolutely incredible. And you look at that as a package trip up to Northern Ireland. I mean, look, Portstewart's not a cheap golf course to go and play. It's in the 200s for a sort of peak season green fee. The Dunluce is obviously an open championship venue. It's not a cheap course to play. But you can really round out a trip in that sort of part of the world. And I know the band course at Castle Rock has had no shortage of hyperbole chucked at it on our part. But you can really load in some stuff like that. I would 100% go and play the old course.
I'd love to. I'm
at
gutted we didn't have the
Portstewart.
opportunity.
It just looks like a really nice plot of land to hit a golf ball along.
Yeah.
And
Low maintenance,
it's
just
brilliant.
hit some golf balls. It'd be really good to explore much more of that. And the little council 9-hole course and the pitching putt they got there, would love to have seen them.
It's just a nice way of balancing out, because you could play 18 round the Strand and then say, well, we're just going to go and play the council 9-hole or whatever. Or we could go and play, you can just, I think short form golf is just, we said this a few times on the podcast before, in Ireland just seems to be embraced so much more. Pitch and putt's key, but like shorter form golf courses is just a real strong suit of the Irish.
And the other thing is, like, most people that don't live in Northern Ireland are going to be coming across playing trophy golf courses like Portstewart, like Portrush, and just get beaten up, because the reality is that they host Irish Opens and the Open for a reason, because they're nails and they're hard. They test the best players in the world. And sometimes you just got to give yourself a break and play these shorter courses and play the old course at Portstewart, or play the local 9-hole thing, because it's all links golf. Like, it's not going to be bad. It's never going to be bad, really. You can't make it bad.
I'm starting to feel like feeling like it for a while, but like some of the most enjoyable stuff is the shorter stuff. Some of those. We obviously played a few holes at the Skerries at Royal Portrush. It was just a lot of fun. Some just amazing green sites. You can just do that stuff for days in Ireland. There's a lot of that. I think huge thank you to the club for having us. I was just really surprised at the scale of that golf club and the facilities it had. I'd like you had done very little research into that, and then when you find out they've got 3 golf courses, and I was chatting to the greenkeeper on 10, I think it was, and he said, he's like, yeah, we sort of work across this in the Riverside, and we have 2 guys down at the Old that work on this. I mean, it's a big team. Like, it's a really big greenkeeping team. It's a big club. It's busy. It's just it's a proper place. And I just couldn't believe how close it was to Portrush.
Yeah, and easy to get to. You fly into International or George Best there, Belfast City, and it's like an hour there. Fly with Aer Lingus, use Sixt. They were all really good. Avoid EasyJet.
I also feel
it's
like
easy.
when you get to Northern Ireland and you fly into City Airport, and there's loads of little pictures of Tato, which is their sort of crisp brand over there. He's just always looks so happy, Tato, and I just think it sets the trip off well, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. And he's the last face you see before you fly.
Although it's a picture of him in a plane, which does put the fear of God into you. I just remember when we flew back first time, and you were like, "Can you imagine if it is Tato that's actually flying us back? That would be genuinely terrifying." Oh, we haven't even mentioned the robots at Belfast International Airport.
Oh yeah.
One of them got a bit close to Charlie in the restaurant.
So Sam's had a pretty busy week, and he's on the phone to his wife, and you can see, like, probably stressed about talking about how much golf he's played. And then I've walked into this bar ready to get a pint just before we fly home, and I'm like, oh my God, I can see he's stressed at the eyeballs on the phone. I'm like, Sam, you've got to see these robots. And he's like trying to fob me. I was like, no, I'm not having this. You have to come see these robots. And they're just driving around delivering food and beer.
Incredible technology.
I'd expect that in Tokyo. We're not in Belfast.
That's the thing. When you see it at Belfast International, you're like, yeah, this is not far from, a Mitchells and Butlers pub near you, which I think was, I don't know. When you look at the quality of the customer service on offer at EasyJet, it's hard to imagine that a robot could make it any worse. So, Thomas, a few other bits. What can we look forward to? I mean, I'm thinking here, do we have any events coming up in the near future?
Questions, so
are you doing?
Hang on a sec. Let's reverse this. Sam, what are we looking forward to?
That's a wonderful question, Thomas. I'm very excited about our retro day at West Byfleet. We got some
Mark II.
We've gone with a bit of needless overservicing of this one. We've got retro meals. I think there might be Ferrero Rochers being given out on the first tee. There's playlists, all sorts of stuff. That's going to be a lot of fun. That podcast we did recently with James, I was genuinely shocked. I mean, I've known James for a few years now. I was genuinely shocked at how much he knows about golf clubs. It's actually ridiculous. The fact that off the top of his head, he couldn't, like 1 hour 45 was not enough to talk about 20 years of golf club design and some of the depths of that. I was absolutely shocked. If you haven't listened to that, you need to go back. And I mean, it's one of those, you've almost got to pick it up a few times, because unless you're in the car for 2 hours, it's, you know, and you just want to listen to golf clubs, it's actually too much. But it's an amazing pod. So that's as a lead up to our event, which we're doing in collaboration with Sound of Golf and West Byfleet. And West Byfleet, we obviously did the podcast, our course diaries, recently with Richard Pennell. I think West Byfleet's fabulous. I think it sets up perfect for what we're looking to achieve. It's not an easy golf course by any stretch, but it's fairly, you know, it's a nice handshake of a golf course as well, and tests every area of the bag. So I think it's going to be a brilliant day. That we've got some really good players coming, like some famous faces, and several ex-tour pros playing in this. And I'll be really surprised that some of those tour pros that are playing will shoot in the 60s around West Byfleet a lot more often than they won't. And I would be really surprised if some of them don't shoot in the 60s with Persimmons. And I think that'll just be interesting to watch. And we're going to do our product shoot next week. It's a bit of a first for Cookie Jar. We've kind of bigged this up a bit now, so I'm a bit worried we're overbilling it. But we've gone a bit crazy on merchandise, I would say. I think it's got away from me, and you had to sort of rein me in the other day on the phone.
When you tried to start a Kimmel brand, that was when it really started to get a bit silly. You're like, it's only £10,000. We could do this.
I still think that's a good idea, but you know, we have got to be mindful of company money and be, you know, we do need the voice of reason very occasionally within Cookie Jar. But I think we've kind of lost our mind on merchandise. We've actually bought an insane range with Peter Millar, like literally insane, like that. The garment stuff there, a lot of it's stuff you don't get in the pro shop. It's super high end, some really nice pieces, like ridiculous amount of bag towels. We've got
Cashmere Cardi was a good touch.
We've got some elite headwear coming as well, and we've just taken delivery of thousands of tea pegs
and towels.
And towels. I said we've got quite a few of that. So we're going to do a little product shoot day on Tuesday, which depending on when this goes out might be today. I don't know. Tuesday evening, and we're going to sort of throw it out there for a few models to come and join us for a slice of pizza and stuff. How that pans out, I've got no idea, but it should be a lot of fun doing a product shoot. I've never done that before, so shout out to Luke Davies, who's helped us with piecing all that stuff together. Luke's a great little photographer, so looking forward to spending the evening with him. And I think we are going to soon be announcing our Christmas party. Last year was a brilliant success, the One Club Challenge at Urban Golf. That's booked in. That will be coming out on newsletter imminently. If you are not signed up to our newsletter, you won't hear about it. So until the inevitability that 50 people cancel on the lead up to it, and they've already put their name down, and then we say, oh, there's a few spots or whatever. But it's going to be in London. It will be on the 30th of November, which is a Thursday.
It's got a small chance of being Urban Golf, isn't it?
It's got a really good chance. So yeah, which is the finest indoor golfing facility in London, and a tour of the bunker. And last year we did the One Club Challenge, where everyone paid an entry of like 10 or 20 quid, and the winner got a Mackenzie. I mean, it's
Rob McGurk, who is he's been a previous guest of the pod. He's the owner
hosted
of
our spring meeting.
Just given up his amateur status, just given up his professional status to turn amateur, and then won that tournament. I mean,
well, he didn't win it. He was medalist, wasn't he, in the qualifying round? Because the One Club Challenge follows a mid-am sort of flow. So you play a 3-hole medal qualifier on 3 holes of the old course, and then you play, and then that puts people into a knockout stage, 1 club, 1 hole. That's right. Rob McGurk was medalist.
He was low amateur.
Yeah.
And then graciously stepped out of the knockout because he think he had a train to catch a bit later, but. Yeah,
and I think he was like, oh, I don't want to win this. It's a bit embarrassing if I win it. And then James Day, who owns the bloody place, went on and won it, which was, I mean, he's not playing next year.
Poor form.
But we will be having that on the 30th of November, which is a Thursday. That's kind of close to silly season in London. It's busy, so we hope it'll be another sellout. So,
what do we say? Keep your eyes and ears peeled.
Well, you got to be on the newsletter. You got to be in it to win it, right? So if you're on that, and when we put our merchandise stuff out, we will be we'll be putting in some extra bonus goodies in there for people who are on our newsletter, so they'll kind of get a early sighter and probably a bit of a deal as well. So urge you to go and do that. Thomas, is there anything else for you before we put a ribbon on this podcast?
No. It's me to always wrap it up with saying, until next time.
Adios.
Watch this.